Our next speaker is a fourth-generation Veni resident and part of this volunteer steering team who are heading up this movement to restore Veni. He will be showing us how our combined effort can make a big difference, while covering some numbers to help show us with an example how we could utilize the UIP levy collected and the potential it holds for transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Andy Pfaff.
I'm going to speak briefly about the financial viability of the UIP. The first question we need to ask is, why formalize? Well, we need to formalize this to make it financially sustainable. We need to move from what is to what can be, from a state of unreliable income to a state where we have reliable income. Because once we have reliable income, planning is possible. The tricky bit is why formalize is if we're working with public monies, then we need to be financially accountable. Again, we need to move from what is to what should be. And what should be is transparent governance. We will have two communities that we need to report to for this governance. Firstly is we have a formal obligation to report to the public sector, to the municipality. Secondly, because we're being funded by the community, we need to be accountable to the community on how the money is spent, how it is managed. So we will do that by providing transparency of all the income and expenses. So we propose that the management accounts are published monthly on the UIP's website, and the audited financials will be published annually. So, show me the money. Let's get real about this. Tweeney contributes a very small part of the municipal budget. For that very small part of the municipal budget, we get a very small part of their attention. There are no surprises there. However, with the UIP, we get a lot more bang for our buck. We will get, apart from a small collection fee of about 2 or 3% by the municipality, we will receive about 97.5% of our own contributions. We, the community, will also decide how to spend it. So instead of contributing 3% to the municipal budget and getting next to nothing back for it, we will receive 98% of these contributions, and we will decide exactly where to spend it. So, how much for how much? This is always the question. If we contribute too little, we can't get much done. If we ask for too much, then the community won't buy in. So we need to try and get the Goldilocks and the three bears. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. Not too much, so no one can support it. Not too little, so we can't get anything done. So what can the numbers look like? Let's move on to something a little more numerate. But just, please, we know this is a hot topic. This is a draft budget for illustrative purposes. These are simply to illustrate what can be if the whole community gets involved, instead of relying on the generosity of the same few donors time and time again. So, what we've got here is income. I've got 4 different categories here. Again, just remember, illustrative purposes. So we have levies, advertising, donations, fundraising events. These are really place fillers. I don't expect to get much here. We expect the bulk of the revenue will come from the levies. Now, what the assumptions in the levy calculation are, we have 1,529 properties in Tweeney. If we have a levy of a fixed levy, one size fits all, of 100 rands per property, if the municipality charges a fee of 2.5% to collect, and we have 77% of the ratepayers, then we will receive 1.3, nearly 1.4 million rands a year. That 1.384 we've taken to the levies, so the levies will be the bulk of the revenue. If we get income out of these categories, great. Don't expect it, but if we do, so much the better. Then we've got two categories of expenses. We've got operating expense and capital expense, OPEX and CAPEX. What I've done is I've divided them into 5 categories. And again, they're very generic. It's very crude and robust. It's to create an idea. And this is where we come back to. We would like ideas from the community. At the moment, the broad categories are cleaning and greening, crime prevention, management of the UIP, repairs and maintenance, and social investment. Cleaning and greening includes things like cleaning the bridge, which is currently going on, cleaning around the beach, progressively cleaning up the streets, the verges, and this will be done largely in connection with the Tidy Towns and the Tweenie Conservancy, for example. So this is not competing with them, it's cooperating, and it's actually facilitating them. We'll come back to that in a moment. Crime prevention, and no surprises there, that's a lot of interaction with the CPF, and again, we will be able to contribute quite significantly to their budget. At the moment, they run on both of the Tweenie Conservancy, doesn't even run here. The Tidy Towns runs on the smell of an oil rag. CPF runs on volunteers who run ragged. Management communications, look, there will need to be something done. There will be internal management costs, operating costs. Repairs and maintenance, well, if we start doing crime prevention, then who pays for the patrol vehicles? Needs to be repaired, radios, cameras, so on. Social investment, that is things like, well, maybe we need to put in rain shelters at the bus stops. Maybe we need to put in skateboard parks. There are a variety of different things. However, these are suggestions. They're very broad categories. There's a lot that can fit into them. What I've done is we've said 75% of the budget will go to operating expenses. Of that 75, we'll split it very democratically, if you like. This is an illustrative purpose, so just split it evenly across the 5 categories. So if we have 1.3 million come in for the year, and we spend 75% of that on operating expenses, that's just shy of 1,940,000. Split that 5 ways, that's 188,000 for each for the year, so about 15,000 a month, which is quite a significant increase in the budget for the CPF, for Tidy Towns, and these have never had budgets. So that's quite a significant bump up of the ability to contribute. Then we have a capital expense, CapEx budget. I've taken the same categories. Obviously, if we're spending 75% on operating expenses, then we've only got 25% left for CapEx. Again, split evenly across them. So this would be for buying things like cameras, buying vehicles, radios. Again, maybe building the social investment, maybe building the bus shelter would come out of the capital budget. But the point is to illustrate we can split between operating expense and capital expenses. We can allocate between the different categories, and those are probably reasonably robust categories, and then specific suggestions for specific projects can be fitted inside that. However, for those of you that are very quick with your calculators, 940 plus 300,000 doesn't give you 1.3 million. It leaves 139,000 left over. What I suggest is, and this is up for debate, everyone can choose and think about this, I suggest that we actually transfer something. We transfer 10% of this 1.3 million, so 10% of that is 130,000. We transfer 10% to reserves. That means we've got an effective 10% contribution, a 10 Rand contribution per month per ratepayer. 10 Rand is really the change we give to the car guards outside the spa. It's not a big number. If we contribute that, so if we spend 90% on the CapEx and the OPEX, we transfer 10% to reserves, then there's nothing left over at the end of the year. However, with those reserves, If we accumulate that reserve for 10 years, it will compound earned interest. I just use the government bond there. It's a 10-year rate, so it's a pretty neutral rate. We end up with 2.25 million rands after 10 years. That's not meant to make anyone rich. However, it does place the UIP on a sound financial footing. It does mean that we're providing for the next generation, that we're providing a foundation for them, which we don't have, and we can see the cost of that, the angst that this community is going through. So I think this is a very sound proposal. I urge you all to think about it very seriously. But again, it is nice to have, and all these things are just, this is a draft to illustrate what is possible, and the community needs to think about it, debate it, and decide it. Thank you very much. That's all for today. Bye-bye.